So right now, a massive US military force is gathering just off the coast of Iran, and pretty much the entire world is holding its breath. Is this the lead up to war? Is it some kind of incredibly high-stakes negotiation tactic? Or is it something else entirely? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down the whole strategic chessboard, look at all the pieces in play, and figure out the potential moves in this massive standoff. Okay, let's just dive right in. The sheer scale of what's happening in the Persian Gulf right now is, well, it's staggering. We're not talking about some routine patrol here. This is a huge, deliberate military buildup. And it really all starts with this number, 17,000. That's roughly how many fresh US troops, sailors, and Marines are being moved into position. And that's on top of the tens of thousands who are already there. A force this big really only raises one very important question. Why? Now, when you look at who they're sending, it gets really interesting. We're seeing amphibious assault groups like the USS Tripoli, which can land thousands of Marines on a hostile beach. You've got the 82nd Airborne. These are elite paratroopers designed to be dropped deep behind enemy lines. These aren't just boots on the ground. These are specialized units trained for very specific, and let's be honest, very aggressive operations. So you've got this massive, specialized force moving into place. But what are they actually supposed to do? This is where things get really murky, because frankly, we're getting two completely different stories coming out of Washington. On one hand, you have the official line. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying very clearly that their objectives, taking out factories, naval assets, air power, all of that can be done without a ground invasion. But you gotta listen to that last part, maximum optionality. It's a statement that says we don't need ground troops while at the same time refusing to take them off the table. And then, almost immediately, you get this, a Fox News segment which the president himself promoted that makes a totally different argument. The case here is that to really deal with a nuclear threat, you have to physically get your hands on Iran's enriched uranium. And critically, it points out that the exact specialized units being deployed, Special Forces, the 82nd Airborne, are the ones trained for precisely this kind of incredibly risky mission. And that really brings us to the core mystery of this whole situation. Is the official story the real one? Or is this very public talk about seizing uranium the actual plan, just kind of hidden in plain sight? So let's really dig into that second possibility, the one that's being talked about so openly. A lightning-fast raid to grab Iran's nuclear material before it can ever be put into a weapon. Okay, so the main target, the place everyone's talking about, would almost certainly be the Isfahan nuclear facility. This is where Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium is thought to be stored, which makes it the single most valuable prize in any potential conflict. You can almost picture how a raid like this would go down, right? Step 1. You insert elite forces deep inside enemy territory. Step 2. They fight their way in and secure that nuclear material. And step 3. Get out fast, before the Iranian military can really organize a big response. It's a mission that perfectly fits the skills of the units being sent over there. But, there's a huge catch. The Iranians, they watch the news too. When the President of the United States is basically pointing at a map and hinting at where his forces might go, you can bet that target becomes the most heavily fortified, most booby-trapped place in the entire country. So what do you do if you're Iran? You know you can't win a straight-up fight with the US military. Your whole strategy has to be different. You have to make any attack so costly, so bloody, that Washington eventually decides it's just not worth the price. And this is where you can see the strategic trap the US has laid. By sending these mixed signals, Publicly talking about a uranium raid while deploying amphibious forces, they've created a huge dilemma for Iran. Do you put all your best defenses around the obvious nuclear target, Isfahan? Or do you fortify your economic lifeline, Kharg Island, against a surprise attack from the sea? It forces Iran to defend two very different, very valuable places at the same time, splitting their focus and pinning out their forces. It's a classic checkmate scenario, where defending one piece leaves another wide open. And intelligence shows that Iran is taking the threat to Kharg Island incredibly seriously. This is not just a token defense. The island is reportedly being laced with anti-personnel and anti-armor mines, which would create deadly traps for any landing force. They're moving in ground troops and advanced air defenses, including shoulder-fired missiles. They are, in short, turning this critical economic artery into a fortress designed to make any amphibious assault a bloody, high-casualty nightmare for the U.S. Marines. And of course, publicly, Iran's leaders are projecting this image of total confidence, total defiance. A message like this from the Speaker of Parliament, well, it's meant for an international audience, but maybe more importantly, it's for the people at home. It's a rallying cry. But here's the thing you have to understand. This external threat from the US serves another very different purpose. It's an incredibly powerful tool for the Iranian regime to use internally. It gives them the perfect excuse for a massive crackdown on their own people, all under the banner of national security. And if you want to understand just how far they'll go, get a load of this number. For more than 700 hours, we're talking about a solid month, the regime has shut down internet access for almost its entire population of 92 million people. They are terrified of protests starting up again. So here's what that information blockade looks like in practice. The vast majority of people, 95%, are completely offline. A tiny fraction, about 4%, have government-approved access, which is mostly used to push state propaganda. And an even smaller, really high-risk group is using services like Starlink, where just being caught with a terminal could get you arrested or worse. At the same time, they're using this threat of invasion to launch this recruitment campaign called Janafa, which means sacrificing life. Now, it's framed as defending the homeland, but in reality, these new recruits are mostly being used to man checkpoints and stamp out any sign of internal dissent. The external enemy becomes the perfect excuse to crush the enemy within. And that leaves us right here on a knife's edge. You have warships on the move, specialized forces ready to go, and a regime using the whole situation to tighten its grip on power. All the pieces are on the board. The only question left is someone about to make the final move?